Welcome to the Mortgage Podcast, where we give tactics, strategies, and inspiration to get you to 10 plus loans per month. We talk a lot about how to make a ton of money in mortgage while also being happy and thriving in your personal life. If you want to be a mortgage millionaire, you're in the right place. Welcome back to the Mortgage Podcast. Thank you for joining me again. It's always an honor. I had a client in yesterday and he asked me, who coaches you? I will tell you my answer. I have what I call spot coaching at my level. So one of those individuals is Rene Rodriguez. So Rene, on a few different occasions, I coach him on something in his business that I'm better at. Then he coaches me on something in my business that I'm better at. And for those of you that don't know, Rene Rodriguez has been around. I mean, I've known him for over 20 years, and he has gotten pretty famous about neuroscience and how it plays into sales. And so I'm going to give you kind of an amateur version of something that I had the pleasure of. Rene conducted a full day meeting with myself and my branch managers and was also at our LO retreat. And in the branch manager meeting, we talked about the 3-brain system. I like taking complicated ideas and kind of keeping them simple. And so I'm going to give you a simple overview of this 3-brain system. But the benefit to you is if we can understand this, you will become a much better salesperson. And I would say by at least double. I will also tell you it's very counterintuitive and it's not how people do it like 99% of the time. And that's the secret. Let me give you an example. For those of you that may not know, I have a 15-year-old daughter. And if you've had daughters, or boys for that matter, sometimes they get in a little trouble. And my daughter got into a little trouble last week. I come home and she is in what I call reptile brain. Reptile brain is that brain that tries to keep you safe. And so in this case, now I don't spank my kids. I don't beat my kids. I don't often raise my voice because I want to keep it a safe place. However, she's in some real fear because she got in trouble. And so when I come home last night, she's for sure in reptile brain. What's dad going to do? How severe is my punishment? How pissed off is he going to be? You know, those kind of thoughts. Reptile brain is the first place where we all start every single day. An example is if there was a shotgun go off right now outside of my office, I'd be like, oh, someone's shooting, right? Reptile brain, safety. Now you're like, Todd, well, that's if someone put a shotgun right outside your window, but that's not how life works. There's shotguns all the time. When your phone pops up, breaking news, reptile brain. Rene said this. He said, I guess news companies use that phrase, breaking news, over 400 times every day. Why? Because it speaks to your reptile brain. Reptile brain is, oh my God, something's going on. I want to stay safe. So I'm going to read the breaking news. Okay. And honestly, it's hard not to, right? I don't even have notifications on my phone, but if I see a breaking news story, I'm like, what's going on now? Right? So reptile brain is where we all start in decision-making and in life. I don't mean any of this condescending. This is just about us as humans. But when you think about that reptile brain, if you're in sales and the client says, I don't want to meet with you, reptile brain is like, that's not safe. They just denied you. They hate your guts. No, they just didn't want to meet with you. Your reptile brain makes it more emotional than it is. That's one of the things that it does. It makes whatever's going on more emotional than it is. So, and it's trying to keep you safe. So that's a layman's explanation of reptile brain. Now, if you talk to Rene, he has written books on it. But I just need to know how it works so that I can understand the process of it so that I can sell around it. So with my daughter, she's in reptile brain. I had to come home and I had to give her a hug and I had to calm my voice and I had to look at her and actually complimented her to start the conversation because she got one of her grades up last week. I was very proud of that. Those are things to get her to the next brain, and that's the emotional brain. The emotional brain is where we usually make decisions. Your emotional brain is like, oh, I'm safe now. What does this person have to offer me? Is this person going to make me feel more safe? Is this person going to do something for me? Is this person of benefit to me? Those are all examples of someone being an emotional brain. Now, when we think of emotional brain, I think some of us may think of we love our children or how our spouse makes us feel comforted or how much we love our spouse. Those are all emotional brains, but emotional brains also happen to everybody in business. Everybody. However,
a lot of people will either not deal with the emotions and they try and skip to level 3. I know this super well because I can do this really well. I'm on a DISC test. I think I'm a 97D last time I took the test. That means I like to wear black. That means I like short conversations. That means I like results over talk. And so I constantly hold myself back and get into the emotional brain so that I can relate to people better, because that's really where they make the decisions. So your emotional brain is just what you think it is. It's the emotions you feel. And that's all great stuff. It's also a process, and the process could happen fast. But understand, we all start off everything in reptile brain, then we go to emotional brain. We're like, Todd, what happens then? Well, eventually we get to logic brain, where you could explain something to somebody and they understand what you want. Give an example for children in high school. Like, why am I going to this stupid high school? I'm never going to use chemistry. That's because maybe them or the parents or the teachers haven't done a good job of saying, let's look at what it really looks like emotionally when you're 40 years old and you're either got a minimum wage job or you got a job that pays you 200 grand. Let's look, man, we could go to Hawaii. Oh, you like that famous sports car? We could probably buy one. Oh, you don't want to stress about when you put stuff in your cart at the grocery store, that's probably this bigger job. If the young children would put tying their emotions to a good education, then more of them would go to college instead of just the compliant ones that are trying to please their parents. I remember thinking, I'm a logical thinker, so when I was about 16, I was like, let me get this straight. The person that has the big house on the hill and the person that drives that nice car and the family that goes to Europe on vacation, they have really good jobs. I think I'm going to go get a really good job. What's that take? It takes college. Okay, I'm going to go to college. That was all logic. I didn't care how hard it was. I didn't care about the emotions. I just wanted the result. And everyone's different, right? Some people are just so lost in their emotions, they can't even get to the logic side. But everyone's brain, pattern-wise, goes through these 3 levels all day, every day. So I have a reptile brain, am I safe? The emotional brain, how do I tie emotions to this? And then my logic brain, okay, now what do I really need to do? So if you just understand that, how that plays out in sales. Say I'm meeting a client for the first time, for sure they're in reptile brain. So I got to do little things like, oh my God, I love your hair. Oh my God, what a beautiful outfit. I love your wedding ring. Some simple compliments. Be approachable, be jovial. Maybe I do the 2-hand shake instead of the 1-hand shake. These are things that I would do to calm their reptile brain. Now, some people call that their charming. Okay, maybe you call that charm. I call it being smart, because you're calming their reptile brain. Oh, this is a good person. This is a good person, okay? Then in sales, we get into a little bit of emotion. You can ask some simple questions. Say, what do you love most about what you do? That's an emotion. You're going to get an emotional statement, usually, okay? What's most important to you about a goal this year that you really want to achieve, and how you doing with it? Oh, you want to listen to me. You want to get to know me. Let me gush that out. That's an emotion. They're sharing emotions with you, okay? Then at some point after we do some of that, we can get to the logic brain. Hey, so I want to present to you a way that I can help you get 5 more deals this year. Are you ready? And if you followed that pattern and you've gone through the first 2 steps correctly, they'll lean in and say, yes. And that's how this works in a sales setting. So you want to get through reptile brain, get into emotional brain, and then end with logic. And that's magical. If I've done the first 2 steps and then I say something like, so my challenge to you is this, they'll be like, whoa, I want to take this challenge. I feel safe with this person. I feel that they care about me, and that we're kind of a little bit emotionally connected. And I'm going to accept that challenge. And that's why, I have a friend of mine that almost all of their employees in their small business, but there's like 12 of them, are family. I said, how's that work? Well, they grew up a very tight family. Because there's so much, she says, it's awesome. Like any business, there's conflicts and stuff, but we make so much money because everyone's so committed. The reason those 12 family members are committed working in the same business is because they trust each other. They have honesty with each other. They all want the same goal. So that's an example. Like when you have high trust, which is high emotion, you can get a lot of things done. Without trust, nothing works well. It's like it just doesn't work. It's clunky. nothing ever really gets done. Why? Because you didn't solve brain number 2. So I hope this helps. I know it's a little bit of psychology, but most of life is about psychology, communication, like those kind of basic things. This is such a great one. So many of us are in sales and we're like, I just want a sale. I just want the sale, Todd. I just want to dive in and tell them what I want. But if we don't follow a process, they're not going to follow you. I'm not saying you won't do any sales using those techniques. It just won't work as well. And it doesn't, when I first was learning all this, I'm like, this takes a lot of time. Actually, it doesn't take a lot of time. You just got to follow the sequence. And so the idea is that I want you to think of it like you're making dinner. So we've got to get the ingredients, then we've got to prep the ingredients, and then we've got to make the meal. And if you understand that the brain works in a cadence like that, where there's 3 levels to it, and you got to go in sequence to satisfy each one so that you can get an outcome, that's where the magic lies. And it doesn't matter whether it's with your children or whether it's in sales or any other part of life. This is how the brain works, and you're not going to stop it from working that way. Okay? Please share this with someone you love. I appreciate it. I will see you in a week. Have a beautiful week. Bye, guys.